Good evening, everyone. Welcome on TV. I am Sean. There's an elephant in the room about my hair. We're just gonna ignore it. We're just gonna move on. Nothing's happened. Everything's normal. So Sydney Roosters review, Hull FC preview. Joining me tonight, we've got a debutant, Phil Tomlinson in the middle of your screen. Gareth Davis joining us, and joining us just right on time, bringing him onto screen now, is Stuart Minnis. So you've got the four of us tonight. Join in the comments. Any thoughts on the Roosters game and looking ahead to Hull? We're going to start with Phil. Phil, tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, I just sort of said off air to Gareth the fact that you're married to a St Helens supporter. You've got our sympathy for that. But when was the first time you started watching Wigan? And a little bit about yourself, Phil.
Well, both my parents were born in Wigan, so growing up, I was always watching it. My dad was a very massive fan, and so it was just right from the off. I just remember, I can't ever remember a time when I didn't watch Wigan, so it was always that. And then going visiting family at the weekend, so going past Central Park, and just being in awe of the stadium as I come into Wigan to go and visit family. It was just sort of really captured my love of rugby league right from the get go. Wasn't until sort of high school when I met my missus, and we were walking back to my house one afternoon, and I said, "Oh, there's a rugby game on tonight." And she said, "Oh, great! I love rugby league." And I'm like, "Brilliant, winner." They said, "Oh," I'm like, "Oh no."
I think we're losing you a little bit there, Phil. He's telling us a story. Gareth, can you still hear us all right?
Yeah.
I think Phil's connection's sort of dropping in and out a little bit. He was doing it beforehand, and he's sort of left us on 10 hooks there for telling us about his story. So I'll sort of take him out and bring him back in. It takes a bit of getting used to, Phil. Don't worry, I'm normally the one with the bad connection. Stuart, good evening. Are you well?
I am. Yes, yourself?
Yeah, I'm good. A little bit cold, but
I like the good man.
Yeah, nobody. Let's be honest. Nobody really likes it. Gareth, yourself, you well?
Yeah, really good. Thank you. Yeah, really good. Thanks.
Let's get straight into it then. The elephant in the room, not my haircut. The Roosters, the Roosters game. You were saying off air, Gareth. It's one of the sort of you really enjoyed the game. It's a really enjoyable experience. Obviously, the result wasn't there. What did you make of it as from a Wigan point of view? Did we give a good account of ourselves? You think, Gareth?
Yeah, I think we did give a good account of ourselves. Like I said to you before we come on air, I thought we gave them far too much respect for the first 20 minutes. With any side, effectively a two-try start, which is what we did, and they were two really, really soft tries. I thought Morris's, especially the first one. You're going to struggle, and you're really going to struggle when you play a team as good as Sydney. I think the key turning point from our point of view was, again, as I said to you off air, was the Warrior-Hargreaves incident, sort of a little bit of fisticuffs, sort of sparked us into life a little bit. And I thought from that point onwards, I thought we were absolutely outstanding. We really took the game to them, and with a little bit more luck and just, I don't know, a little bit more game awareness when we were in their danger zone, like last plays, I think on the commentary they said, you know, Wigan didn't put a really good kick in until sort of 10, 15 minutes before the end. I thought our kicking game, sort of last plays, was quite poor, really, if I was going to be critical. But like I say, the way we fronted up and took it to them, I thought was excellent. And yeah, I thought we really give a really good account of ourselves. And for Super League in general, although we lost, we weren't disgraced at all, I don't think.
That start was horrendous, wasn't it? To go, you can't afford to go behind so early against such a quality team, whether it's Super League or NRL.
We've seen it so many times, like when England and Great Britain have played Australia, and when Super League teams have played NRL sides in these games before. That good start is always key, and especially in the World Club Challenge games, because we were a little bit more game ready than they were, because they hadn't played a competitive game. We'd had a pre-season games, and we'd obviously had the two Super League games as well. And it was obvious they were going to tire. So if we had been level, we were just always behind the eight ball. I mean, when would they score the first try? What, 4 minutes was it? You know, you're up against it from that point onwards. If we'd have been level or closer than we were at half time, I think we'd have gone on and won in the second half. But it was just too much of a mountain to climb, really, at the end.
Phil, you're back with us, by the way, so don't worry, you are on screen. We'll come back to you. We'll come back to you in just a second. Stu, I saw you at half time on Sunday night. We were both relatively optimistic that we could get back into the game, and we got closer and closer and closer. But I think, as Gareth said, it was that game management, and this is a topic I think that we've discussed last year. I think discussed it the year before, and continuously do, is that leadership at some parts on the pitch. Stu, what did you think of the game? Obviously disappointing to not get that 5th star. As Spencer said, we didn't want the 5th star anyway. But Stu, your thoughts on the game and how we're going to equip themselves against the Roosters?
Well, to be honest with you, I think the lads done really well. How can I put it? For a team who hadn't played a game, the fitness was really superior. The NRL, I'm going to give it to them. Even though there was a few biased decisions by the man in the middle, as always. But that's part and bar. But no, I would say I was really impressed with on his defence. Joe Greenwood, the way he was, brilliant lad, went for them. That. Even George Williams, he took it to little. I think he was there to show that Mr. Cronk that he could do it, and he wasn't just, the kid on the block. But no, in all, I was really pleased with our lads. Honestly, I really was there.
Martin put on here, Sean O'Loughlin outstanding. Phil, I want to sort of pick you back up on your story about the Central Park, because we sort of got halfway through, but let's talk about Sean O'Loughlin for just a second. Martin says Lockers was outstanding. That's, for me, he just shows that he's timeless yet again, and the real worry is, how do we replace somebody like O'Loughlin in a few years? Your thoughts on the game, Phil? Obviously coming up short against the Roosters, but Sean O'Loughlin was outstanding, wasn't he, on Sunday night?
Yeah, Lockers was absolutely brilliant. I'm really going to struggle to find another player like him, but I think we started almost exactly the same as we did against Saints, and the 2 quick tries over on our right edge, just almost carbon copies of the Saints game. So I think for me, it was just it's all in that first 20 minutes, and we just don't seem to be managing that very well at the moment.
Lots of people saying Samet would have made a difference. To people talking about Escaré as well, and we'll come on to that in just a second. Yeah. Looking ahead to the whole game, because I think that remains. What are we now? 4 weeks into the season, we was previewing shows, and we've had the same conversation every week. And I would assume that this week will be the week that it changes up. Gareth, overall, as we sort of look to sort of park the World Club Challenge to one side, do we move on to the rest of the season? Pride intact. We gave the Roosters a good game. The Roosters spoke highly about the Wigan team after the game. It was a good hit out for them. Ultimately disappointed, but do you think we can take confidence going into the rest of the season?
Yeah, absolutely. There was enough from our key players there going forward to give us encouragement for the rest of the season. I thought Zach Hardacre had an outstanding game without really doing anything spectacular. And you can just...
Anthony says Dan Sargison for me.
For me, Dan Sargison was the man of the match from our point of view. I mean, I know Brett Morris, because of his tries, obviously he was going to get it. But I thought Sargison was absolutely outstanding for us. You said about, I just seen it come up on screen there, about Samet would have made a difference. I don't quite know about Samet. Maybe Escaré, maybe for that almost like one-off game, which it was a one-off game. You just wanted an extra option off the bench, maybe. I mean, Escaré could have played at hooker. Escaré could have gone in and played at heart. He could have played anywhere, really. It was just... maybe there was just not enough of a plan B when they tired. You would have wanted, to me, I would have thrown Escaré on, someone like that to go in at dummy half. But speed around the ruck may have been the difference. And also Escaré can kick as well, which, as I touched on earlier, I didn't think our kicking game was good enough. I mean, it's funny how you can watch the same game but have a different opinion. Stu said how good he thought George Williams was. I think George Williams had quite an ordinary game, certainly kicking-wise, which was what everyone bigged him up. Who was it bigged him up before and said he was as good as one of the Johns boys? Well, and that's why he go to the NRL. Well, if the NRL clubs were looking at that, they might have thought, well, what's all the fuss about? Which could be a good thing for us going forward. But yeah, I just think that better option off the bench rather than the 4-4s, which you know what you're going to get from the 4-4s, don't you? I can understand why they went with 4-4s, but for a one-off game, I would have just preferred someone like Escaré, just for that little. He gives you something extra, doesn't he? He can magic something out of nothing, especially close to their line. Because we got close to their line on quite a few occasions, we just didn't do anything with that final play. And I think if we'd had someone like Escaré, fresh legs, to come off the pitch against tiring big fours, they're a big, heavy pack, they are as well.
They certainly tired, didn't they, towards the end? I think that's the point.
Of course, they haven't played. I know they've done the competitive training against Saints, and I think I saw the Brett Morris interview afterwards, said they'd never trained as hard as they did back when they were in Australia. But you can't beat being out there on the field, actually playing in a competitive game, which we had done twice, and 2 really competitive hit-outs for us against Saints and against Leeds, whereas they hadn't. So, yeah, there's positives to go forward. We could dwell on it forever and a day. We've not got the star, but we weren't I mean, Christ, we didn't. Some people were thinking we were going to lose sort of 30, 40-0.
It looked like it early on, didn't it? I mean, I just want to pick up on Bernard's point that I've just put on screen there. He says, I must have been at a different game. We were outclassed. They had at least another gear to change up to. That might well have been the case, but, you know, at the end of the day, I think the score reflects a close game. And I think we just let ourselves down at the start. I mean, you know, everyone's entitled to their opinion.
Bernard, but I don't agree with that at all. They had nothing left. With 20 minutes to go, they were teetering, I thought. They were really teetering, and they took it seriously. It wasn't like they just came like teams were doing 10, 15 years ago. They were just coming for a bit of a jolly up, and they go out on the booze and then just turn up and play again. They took this really seriously. That was the best Roosters team they had. So I don't think we were outclassed, and I think we gave them a really good game.
Just second half.
Sorry, go on, Phil.
Sorry. As I think in the second half, it just shows you how tight it was, because, I mean, it must have been about 15, 20 minutes in, and nobody had scored, and they opted to kick for a penalty rather than keep on playing. So it just shows you how close it was in the second half.
And I think that's key, isn't it? They opted to go for goal, and I put James's comment on there. When we got on top with the quick play of the balls, they gave away penalties to slow the game. There was a game management and an intelligence and almost a maturity from their performance when it was, you know, slowing the play of the ball down, when it was how long the guy took kicking at goal. There's little things like that which, you know, you're frustrated when you're on the opposite side, but when it's your side, it's just game management. It's a way to win a game, and they're used to winning games, and I think that's something that we got better at under Sean Wayne as time went on, and we're obviously successful with it. And it seems that George Williams is the person that we talk about quite a lot on here. He seems to be the person that divides opinion a lot. He has to get better at that, because Tommy Luluai, Sean O'Loughlin, they're not going to be around forever. And that is the element of the game that we've been talking about with George Williams for 2-3 years. Yeah,
sorry, just to jump in there, like we were saying about Sean O'Loughlin earlier, he's almost irreplaceable at the moment, isn't he? And the other thing is that because of his age, and because, I don't know, his body is giving up slowly, he is not going to be able to play for 80 minutes in every game. Now, in some of the games, you might be able to get away with him not being on the pitch against the lesser teams in the Super League. And I won't name them because that's being a bit disrespectful, but we all know who they are. But in the big pressure games, you do need more. You need someone of that ilk that's going to lead the team around the pitch. And I think that when O'Loughlin doesn't play, we got big characters in that team, but we all just almost look little bit lost, don't we, really? We're looking around to see who the guy is that's going to guide us around the park. So, I don't want to bail George Williams out. He's a great player, but like you say, for him to be, he has to kick on to the next level now, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this is the season that he's going to do it. I mean, I don't think we're creating excuses for him, but Adrian Lamb, there's lots of different things that are going for him. I mean, moving on from the Roosters game, talking about the injury that Liam Farrell picked up. I mean, we talk about who's going to replace Sean O'Loughlin next year. It's Liam Farrell's cousin, Owen Farrell. We all know that Owen Farrell will be signing for Wigan next year, as I've told you time and time again. After England win the Reunion World Cup, Sean Edwards signs Owen Farrell. I've seen it. I've come back from the future, and that's where I lost my hair. And that's what happens. Just so you know, and I will replay this when he does sign for Wigan. It seems like a pipe dream at the minute, but it will happen. Stu, Liam Farrell out for 4 months. How do we replace somebody like Farrell in the team, do you think?
Well, Bullock, simple as, put him in.
In second row? Such a big guy. I mean, he used to be a winger, obviously, so he's used to playing. So I think...
He said, the man can race a race off, so you know what I mean? Can race off. You know, there are people don't believe us, like, but the man, put him in. You know what I mean? The old thing, throw him in the deep ends, make him swim, and I think he'll do all right, to be honest with you. I don't think there's anything to worry about, honestly. Plain simple.
Willie Isa, would you start Willie Isa in second row? Why does everybody hate Willie Isa? Honestly, it's just one of those.
I think
Sean is a penalty machine. That's why.
Yeah, well, yeah. Go on, Phil. Sorry, your thoughts on Farrell being out?
Well, it's going to be a big loss to the team, but I think, judging by what I was reading on Twitter early on, I think Lammy's going to put Isa in, and then possibly shuffle the pack a little bit other. But I do agree. I think, you know, we've got a big forward there in Joe Bullock. We'll just chuck him in and let him run.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine that somebody like Joe Bullock running out wide? At sort of, I mean, it'd be like it would be our Ginger Conrad Hurrell, but good. Yeah, Josie says I would like Joe Greenwood to be groomed as a loose forward, to take over from Locke as possible as a future captain. He was another awesome player. Peter says, Isa or Talima Tautai. So that's the other consequence, isn't it? That somebody obviously has to come into the team. Tautai has missed out. Escaré has missed out. We'll come on to the Escaré. Hamlin, yeah. I mean, I think Phil he mentioned Hamlin potentially going into the back row as well, if I remember right. Yeah. So we've got lots of options there. Liam Paisley, of course, played a few games for us last year. Jack Wells coming back from injury. So we've obviously got some players to go in there. But to lose the quality of Liam Farrell, albeit he's been playing on the right hand side, we're going to lose him until June, July time. It's going to be a massive blow, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's just going to be huge. But I mean, he served quite a bit of a time last year where he was out with injury as well, and we seemed to do okay. And it was a game that I was watching, and I was like, "Where's Liam gone?" I was like, "Oh yeah," but you know, we did all right in his absence, and I think that's just goes to show the quality of the pack that we've got. I think Lammy was saying we've got 30 odd players, and you know, it's just time for somebody to step up. So I think I was a bit
like you actually. Feel like I didn't know that he was injured. I thought it was a tactical switch that he'd made, and that maybe was pinpointing Farrell in defence for the Morris tries on that right hand side, or instead of Gildart. I wasn't too sure. Obviously, it was an injury that he's picked up. He's out for 4 months. Gareth, your thoughts on that? He's obviously a massive player. He's been consistent since 2010. He knows how Wigan play, but do you think this is an opportunity for the likes of Liam Paisley, Jack Wells to all of a sudden become the new Liam Farrell? This is a perfect opportunity.
Yeah, it is. We've never been afraid of throwing youngsters in at the deep end. I know, obviously, Joe Bullock's in there at the moment, but I was just going to say the two that I thought straight away was Paisley and Wells. It's a massive opportunity for one or either or those to step up to the plate. But yeah, Farrell's going to be a huge loss. He's just missed the consistency, isn't he? You know what he's going to get from him every single week. I think in one of the shows we did earlier in the year, one of us, it wasn't me actually, but one of the other guys was talking about him being a Man of Steel contender. So that just shows it's a massive, massive void. It just depends the way Lamb wants to go. He's got Tautai and Isa if he wants to throw someone in who's with experience, if he wants to almost play it safe. If he wants to go a bit left field, then yeah, you've got Bullock, you've got Hamlin. I think positions in the forwards have changed. Props, loose forwards, back rowers, they're all much of a muchness nowadays. They can all interchange and play anywhere really. So, and I think that's good for our squad that we have got that flexibility. But I mean, like I say, Hamlin, Bullock, they wouldn't look out of place in the second row at all. But if you wanted a bona fide second row, you maybe would go with one of the youngsters, like Wells or Paisley. A couple of names being bandied about here as well. Sorry, Martin says Liam Byrne's a name that's been mentioned by Lammy. I mean, Liam Byrne played in the pre-season games and really impressed, didn't he, against Salford off the bench. And he's somebody that's been with the first team during the games. He's not been in the 19-man squad, but they've made a point, I think Adrian Lamb said, about him being around the first team squad to get him ready to be in that 19-man squad. So obviously we don't know what the squad is yet for Sunday. That'll be announced at 12 o'clock on Friday, and Liam Byrne may be one of those. Another one that's mentioned here by James Barrow, and this is, I think, is probably Morgan Smith is lower down the pecking order mainly because of his age, but Morgan Smith is one of those players whose name crops up time and again. He's in the Yorkshire squad, he's in the England squad. This is a player who I think many people believe will be Sean O'Loughlin's replacement. Obviously, he'll be fighting with Owen Farrell, but Morgan Smith is really, as long as he keeps developing at the rate that he seemingly is doing in the under-19s at the moment, that is a name to watch, and I don't think it'll be too long until we see him involved at some point. Obviously, there's lots of we've got Hull this weekend, we've got London next weekend, and no disrespect for London, but you would perhaps
see this as 2 weeks of two opportunities to try the likes of Paisley, to try the likes of Tautai back in the squad. Let's open up the can of worms. Let's talk about Samet. Let's talk about Escaré. Stu, bearing in mind that Luluai's age, O'Loughlin's age, playing on Sunday, coming out of a World Club Challenge, O'Loughlin played a lot of minutes, didn't he, on Sunday night? If those two are rested, would you like to see Escaré and Samet thrown straight in against Hull FC? Would you like to see Escaré thrown straight into starting on the bench and throw Samet in maybe as a replacement for Luluai on Sunday?
Yeah, put Samet in.
Yeah, move on.
End of the day, right, it's kicking game. I'll take pressure off Zach. End of the day. It's tactical kicking. He's a good kicker of goals. Take pressure off him. And even though my mother won't agree with this because she's number one Zach fan, as you know, Sean. But no, take pressure off him, you know what I mean? And we maybe see a better, well, you know what I mean? But I would definitely put Samet in. I would, really would, on Sunday. I'll be honest with you. As for Escaré, put him on the bench.
And would you? So say we put Escaré on the bench, because this is a topic that we have every week. Everybody wants to see Escaré in, and God forbid Escaré comes in and has a bad game. I don't know where we go to from there. But Escaré comes in, you put him on the bench, and then is it a case of how do we then alternate? Because we don't have a Hardacre can go into the centre. Is that not too many positional changes?
Personally, I would have him to replace either Powell, give Powell a spell off, stick him in at 9. You know what I mean? That kind of switch, freshen him up. Like just like Burrows was at Leeds, you know, I mean, he used to come on after 70 minutes. He used to rip absolute defences to bits, you know what I mean? And that's what I say Escaré could be to us. Like an absolute little missile that'd just be all over the place. You know what I mean? Destroy defences.
A little French missile, I like it. Yeah, but that's picking up Robbie Burrows as an example for him, that pace running against tired legs. Again, the 8 interchanges means that there are a lot of tired legs on the field when it gets to that. Phil, your thoughts on Sunday? How would you approach that? You know, bear in mind we've got Farrell out injured, and we want to try and freshen things up a little bit with Luluai and O'Loughlin probably being the two elder statesmen that may want to miss out. How would you change it up, Phil?
Yeah, I'd chuck Samet in. I think, you know, I agree there. We put Samet in, keep Escaré on the bench. It's got to be about the start, really, hasn't it? We've got to blow them away in the first 20 minutes. Dare I say, Hull haven't won a game since June last year, and I don't want it to be against us this year. So we need to start well. We need to really kick on from it.
Gareth, your thoughts on that? Who would you do you freshen it up? Is this the perfect opportunity to, with all due respect to Hull, and we'll talk about Hull in just a second, but we're at home, we're playing a team, like Phil said, that hasn't won a game since June. Jared Samet could be that spark maybe in the attack that we're missing at the moment, do you think?
Yeah, I think there will be changes. I mean, we commented earlier, didn't we, just on, the depth in our squad and what a good squad we've got. So I think we'll use it. I think there'll be changes throughout the team. Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think O'Loughlin will play. Luluai, I'm not sure. It would make sense to rest them both, I think. Samet's got to play at some point. Why would you sign him otherwise? It's a bit pointless if he's not gonna play at all. Escaré, I agree with what Stu said about Escaré. He's could be very much like Rob Burrow. Just an impact player to have off the bench. And I know the interchanges, to say it's something we always bang on about how it's a little bit more difficult now. And Wigan seem to want to go with the 4 forwards, which I get that. But I think you have to have a bit of variety. And like I said earlier, against the Roosters, didn't seem like we had a plan B. Escaré off the bench against tired legs, he's great just because he's so quick from when he plays a dummy half. I think Escaré would be a really good shout, and I think there'll be changes in the pack, whichever way he wants to go. Will Lamb go with experience and bring either Isa or Tautai in, or will we go with one of the youngsters, or will he shift it around and will he play Bullock or Hamlin in the second row and then bring someone else in on the bench? I definitely think there'll be changes, though. Definitely think there'll be changes. And then there will be, I think you could see even more changes the week after against London. No disrespect to London. They've actually done all right so far. But you've got to be looking at that game as a winnable game. I know it's away, but a winnable game. and be a game where you could blood some of those players that haven't had much experience, the likes of Wells and Paisley and the other ones we've talked about.
London is certainly one of the venues. Obviously, I know we've not played there for a few years, but London does have a history of being the venue where the youngsters do get blooded. I remember George Williams playing there for the first time a few years ago and looking like a very, very good player when he did do. Stu, when we look at Hull FC, is this? When I look at it, I feel like this could be the perfect game and also the worst possible game that we could play after the Roosters. We've got a team that is short on confidence. We're playing them at home. But then on the other hand, we've got a team that has to win. They are desperate to win. To not win a game since June or whenever it is, what is it, 13 in a row, 14 in a row that they've lost now? Yeah. They've not looked a million miles away when they've played, but they're just a patchy side at the moment. You think back to the derby that started the season. They threw that away really in the last moments, and we could be talking about a completely different side. Are you concerned about Hull FC? Is there a danger that Wigan underestimate Hull FC on Sunday? Do you think, Stu?
Well, there's only one into that no doubt will hear that bloody Sneed at the shout. You know, when our fans are taking the mick out of them. You know, that's the only thing with that. But I'll be honest with you, mate. When you look across the park, who's there? Minicello, you know. I don't think we've got that to worry about, but we've all said this before, and it's come back to bite us, hasn't it? Me personally, I don't think we've anything to worry about. I think it could be a bit scrappy with the changes, but if we've got the right leaders on the right areas, we should be fine. At the end of the day, 2 points is 2 points. You know what I mean? It's what we want.
Phil, that is a danger, isn't it? So many changes could lead to a bit of I guess, untoward. The players don't know what they're doing necessarily on the pitch. You know, too many changes can have a detrimental effect, I guess. But Scott Taylor's missing through suspension. Do you see this Hull FC side on Sunday causing a concern for Wigan, or do you think this should be one of those games where Wigan can just build up a lead and take it from there?
I think, I think for me, I feel that Hull are a bit dangerous at the moment. You know, you don't know what they're going to bring because, you know, they've had some very, very close games, but they've not come away with any wins. So if they come bringing the game thinking that, you know, we're going to be licking our wounds after the World Cup challenge, then it could well come to bite us on the rear end. But again, I think if we get our start really, really well on Sunday, the Reds might just dip down and we might just run away with it. But here's hoping. Yeah,
confidence is going to be a massive play, isn't it, for both sides, I think, on Sunday. Gareth, they're a side that still has quality. Whatever you think about Sneed, he can organise his team. He's a good kicker. Jake Connor is one of those players who everybody hates unless he's on your side, and he's proven himself to be a consistent threat at Super League and international level. Danny Howson in there, Jamie Shaw. This isn't a bad Hull FC side. It's just a team lacking confidence. Do you see do you expect Wigan to win on Sunday, or do you expect it to be a close game?
Yeah, I expect Wigan to win. I expect it to be close as well, like we said, because we're going to make some changes. But yeah, and those players you've just rattled off there, they're not bad players. They're really, really good players. Players that would be good if we had them in our squad, I think. But their confidence is absolutely shot to bits. And the other thing is I saw a piece the other day when they were saying that you can't sack the coach because Radford, they had injuries last year. There's a massive amount of pressure on them. Probably there's more pressure on them than there is on us, because how many games can they keep on losing? How many more can they lose before the board there will change the coach?
It's not going to cost them much to get rid of Radford, because he said he's in the last year of his contract. So, if they were going to terminate a contract, it's not going to cost the board too much with him being in the last year of his contract. But is that enough inspiration for them? And does the 2-week break that they've pretty much had since the last game, is that going to be a big factor, do you think, on Sunday?
It could be, but then it could. The fact that we had such a hard game last week could work against us. I think that like we've said, the start is all important. If we can score early and be maybe 10 or 12 points up after 10 or 15 minutes, then their confidence is so fragile that I think they'll fall apart and we could end up winning quite comfortably. The flip side of that is that if they get the first score, their tails go up straight away. But I think the thing is for them is that actually getting that win seems almost impossible for them. Like you said, in the derby game, they threw it away. They should have won. But they just can't seem to get over the line at the moment. So I think the start's all important. The team changes may hamper us. I don't think they will too much, to be honest, because I think the players that will come in, they're not alien to the first team. They've had first team experience. They know the systems, even though Lamb's systems are a little bit different to what we did under Sean Wayne. It's not going to be totally alien to them. I think if we get off to a good start, we could end up winning by 15, 20 points, really.
There's a really good point that James made here, which I want to bring on screen in a second. It takes the conversation into a completely different direction. But before we do, let's wrap up the Hull FC element. Stu, your prediction for Sunday?
18-14 plus.
Phil?
I'd say 24-12.
I'll go 34-10. Gareth?
30-12.
12. Right, this is an interesting point. It's something that I was thinking about at the weekend. Is Tony Clubb in particular? So James says he's worried about the props. Clubb and Navarrete not performing like Ben Flower. Now Ben Flower's had an exceptional start to the season, hasn't he? I think we all agree. He's been fantastic. Phil, are you concerned about? Tony Clubb seems to have struggled since he picked that injury up against Saints within the first minute. He's not been able to get to that enforcer stage. Navarrete, we can talk about Navarrete because Matt's suspended for 1 week for saying that last week was his last rap. We can talk about Navarrete however we want, really. But Navarrete, for me, just isn't adding enough to the game. And that's why I would like to see Tausai come in. I would like to see Liam Byrne, Sammy Kabila, somebody like that to give it. I think props is very much a confidence game as much as any other position is. But Phil, I'm interested to know what your thoughts are, because we really miss Tony Clubb as an enforcer at the moment.
Yeah, we do. And I think when Joe Bullock come on, he really did muscle up, and so did Greenwood. And I think they're leading the way more so than what Tony Clubb should have done, really. But maybe the incident where he was almost knocked himself out, it's just knocked his confidence a bit, and he needs a bit of a breather just to get his head back into the game. So yeah, I'd love to see Tausai back on because he's a great player.
Stu, your thoughts on that? Do you think we've seen a change in almost the psyche of our props, where we've got Clubb and Flowers as the leaders of the pack, if you like, over the past few years, and all of a sudden Flowers looks like he's leading this on his own, and Clubb's struggling a little bit. How do you see the props? Would you like to see a little bit of a change up there? Do you think the dynamics changing in terms of Wigan's front row?
It's a shame, as you say, about Clubb, but there was a kid that played at Barra, even though we couldn't work out for all the sludge and that, Liam Byrne. I would give that guy a go. Maybe not this weekend, but against London. Give him a go, that kid. Because I'll tell you what, he's just rocking them. Against Salford, knocked them on the back. Same with Barra. Don't even know it was in the sludge, in the mud. But I would give him a go. I really would.
Gareth, your thoughts on that? Do you think Tony Clubb, it's just a case of he's playing with an injury, it's knocked his confidence? We Clubb and Flower and Mark from Super League Pod, I remember him talking and making a really good point of this. Flower and Clubb play their best rugby when they're on the pitch together. They work off each other. They sort of inspire each other, whether it be in defence, whether it be in attack. And at the minute, Flower's doing all of that on his own. Are you concerned about Clubb?
Yeah, I didn't think he gave his normal amount of go forward against the Roosters, if that makes sense. He wasn't as effective, certainly as a ball carrier, as Flower was, which is concerning. But again, perhaps he just hasn't fully recovered from the injury, and like Stu said, perhaps give Liam Byrne a go and rest Clubb. Talk about Navarrete, and I will say, because Matt's not here, I thought Navarrete looked like I honestly thought Navarrete was a liability every time he carried the ball forward. There was like almost that like some, I don't know. It's just, I know he came up with a couple of errors and you can't pin too much on him, but I don't know. I was almost like a sharp intake of breath every time he carried the ball forward. And you're right, Flower almost sort of, did all the hard yards on his own, really, without too much support. And the other thing you say about Bullock, when Bullock come on, the crowd were lifted instantly. I mean, I don't know if, obviously, I wasn't there. I was only watching it on telly. I don't know if you guys got that feeling when Bullock come on. The crowd, there was one run where he made some decent yards, busted a tackle, and it really, really lifted the crowd.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's just where it was difficult with club. It almost like seemed like he had lead in his boots when every time he took the ball forward, and it may be a consequence of his injury. It may be something else, but he certainly didn't give that go forward like Flower did and like club has before. And as for Navarrete, well, I just think he had a little bit of an off day, really.
The other element. The other element with Tony Clubb, is that he's in the leadership group now as well, and you don't know sort of. I'm sure. I mean, he's inspirational as a player without being part of that leadership group. But there's always an element of that when there's an added responsibility to players. That can affect them a little bit. Sorry, Stu, you were going to say something.
Well, there's only one thing I can think of why Navarrete's gone the way he has. Our friend Mr. McCall is stalking him in his garden last year. You know what I mean?
Petrified him, hasn't it?
Well, this is it, and. We don't want to go into it, because it could be a case here, but I don't want to say, you know what I mean?
I'm with you on that. I mean, Navarrete, I was a bit harsh on him, I think, after the Saints game, and sort of Matt obviously defended him as much as he possibly could. But I do think that Navarrete hasn't come back from pre-season in the right shape. I think there's a reason why he played against the Scholars in that pre-season game. Lamb put him in there, which was... rare for one of the first team players. Him and Escaré went in there, and I don't know whether it's because the French internationals maybe came back a little bit later than the rest, but for me, there's just I just don't think I don't think he's had this benefit of the same pre-season or whatever. But he's a good player, isn't he? And
the thing is, the debate show we do. How many times would Matt be saying, if we'd done it for Navarrete, would he be saying, "Hold my pie"? I think it would be saying that.
Stu, I don't know how you dare. You haven't got a clue what the rules are still. You and Gareth, they're the worst. You haven't got a clue what you were arguing for. One last point. You still don't know. It's like just before we went. Never mind. One last point that I'd like to sort of get all of your opinions on very quickly is we're 3 weeks into the Lamb era. I think I can see a change in the way that Wigan are starting to play. I think his comments after the Saints game were all about what he wanted to change, and we saw that change against Leeds. The Sydney game, I think, was a bit of a one-off because it was a final for us, wasn't it? And now his comments after the Sydney game, focusing on defence, focusing on the kicking game. Phil, I'll come to you. Are you seeing a change in the Lamb era compared to Wayne? And if so, are you happy with where it's going? Or are you sort of still, wishing that we were back in 2018 and playing whatever that style of rugby can be branded as, the successful brand, whatever it might have been under Sean Wayne?
I can definitely see a change. I think we've got. I think the trouble I'm seeing at the moment is we've almost got too many options on that last player ball that actually we haven't got the structure there that Wayne did. So. It's that decision making, and it's not quite clicked yet. But I mean, after the Leeds game, he was saying that we had 10 opportunities that we missed, and we could have put 50 past Leeds, which would have been absolutely amazing. But it's that final execution. But then again, we didn't have Samet on the field, and maybe that might be slightly the difference. So it'd be interesting to see how we go on this weekend and see how many chances that we could have had, and look at the score and reflect on that afterwards. But I can definitely see a change.
Stu, do you think Andy makes comments there, our defence has dropped off for sure. Are we sacrificing what we perceive as attacking flair, and we're sacrificing our defence for it? Do you think our defence is suffering? Because I don't know whether it's us as fans over the past few years have always been crying out for a better brand of rugby, more flair, and we seem to be getting that. Like Phil said, we've got options all over the park now. And we seem to be playing across the park rather than through the middle and giving options either side. Are you concerned about the defence under Lamb compared to how it was under Wayne?
A little bit, but not drastic. Only thing I'm concerned on is our last players. It happened with Leeds, obviously with the Roosters, you know what I mean? The kicking thing. And where they were putting it up towards Davis and that. I'm not being funny. I'm not knocking Davies, but I've seen lads in amateur take them fifth tackle, no pressure on them or nothing. You know what I mean? All I can say is can't wait for Manfredi to come back. I don't know how long he's going to be back, but I can't wait till he comes back. Do you know what I mean?
Gareth, your thoughts on that? The sort of the Lamb era. It's only 4 weeks in, but are you seeing a difference? Are you happy with what you've seen so far?
I think we try and play a little bit more on the front foot than we did with Wayne. Wayne was a little bit more safety first. I think he liked us almost being the underdogs, playing with our backs to the wall a little bit. I think that brought the best, his style, what he tried to get the players to do was easier when it was backs to the wall and we were perhaps on the back foot. I think Lamb, naturally, because of he was a skillful scrum half when he played, obviously in the NRL, and when he came over here, that he wants us to play a little bit on the front foot. And I think it would be difficult for those players. You know, they obviously got into a mindset and played a certain way underway. And when you have a new coach come in with different ideas, it's going to take a little bit of time. And I think that could be perhaps one of the reasons why there's that almost little bit indecisiveness. It's like, what do we do on the last play? Do we stick and run with it? Do we twist and put a kick in? You know, I think that will just come the more Lamb implements his ideas to the players, really. But is that sacrificing our defence? Possibly, but if we keep winning games, then it doesn't really matter, does it? I mean,
it's probably an unfair comment that I've made, isn't it? You know, does your defence naturally be sacrificed because you're better at attacking? There's no reason why you can't be good at both.
No, well, no, there's not. But I think it's just a natural assumption to make that if you try and play a little bit more on the front foot, your defence may suffer because your primary objective is going to be scoring points. Where I'm not saying Sean Wayne's primary objective was not to concede points, but he had a bigger emphasis on let's not let anything in and see what happens up the other end. Whereas perhaps Lamb's idea is, well, let's score some tries and worry about the other end later. I don't know. But I think the main thing is that it's always going to take time for what is essentially the same set of players we had last year. I know there's a couple of differences, but it's essentially the same group of players are being asked to play a different way under a different coach, and that will take time, I think.
I think on average, though, we've started the season, and over the last few years, our first few games, we've always lost a couple and won maybe one or two. But I think by the time we get to Easter, we average conceding about 16 points, which is okay, but our attack's always been a bit better, so we've always won a few games. But this year, with the exception of the Saints game, we're still under that. So I think our defence is okay. It's that right edge for me that's more of the worry, because we just seem to be, every time somebody seems to get down there, they seem to be able to score, even when there's 5 players wrapping around them and pulling them over the line. So I think overall, defensively, we're okay. It's just that right edge. But mind you, if we swap Sargent back over to where he should be and get Gildart back over onto the left edge, maybe we solve that little bit of an issue.
I mean, just before I wrap up, there was an interesting point that Oliver Gildart made last Thursday when I spoke to him, when I did the interview with him, and I asked him, about being on that right edge. Is there a difference? And he said, yeah, he's always played on the left. It's not natural for him to play on that right hand side, and Lammy's kept it the same as the team that won the grand final. And I think what we've got is 2 left centres that we're trying to get into the team, and it doesn't work. Ideally, you would have a good right centre. A certain Anthony Gelling might come back available over the next couple of weeks. I'm not saying that we should sign him, but he is a right-sided centre. But I think the problem that you get by putting Sargent back over there is you take away his biggest threat, which is his sidestep. If he does his sidestep on that side, he goes into touch pretty much every time, doesn't he? Whereas, I think it's a case of weighing up who's your biggest threat on that left-hand side. Is it the link up between Williams, Farrell now injured, Gildart, and Burgess now injured? So two of those 4 or whatever are now injured. So I think that's the decision, isn't it? The biggest problem being that we've got 2 very good left-sided centres and we're trying to fit them into the side. Martin says, yeah, Hankinson on the right-hand side, that could be an option that we look at perhaps over the next few weeks. But gents, thank you very much for taking the time to join me tonight. Phil, we will get back to your story. I know Betty's watching, and then I don't want to ask you about you taking us to Central Park just in case it gets you in trouble. But we'll come back to you and ask you about that on another show that we get you on. So thank you very much for taking the time, Phil, and welcome to the Wigan Fan TV.
Always, thanks, guys.
TV family. He doesn't have a beard, but he does have glasses, so we're sort of widening the people that we're getting on here. Stu, as always, thank you very much. Gareth, thank you very much for taking the time. And we'll be back at the same time next week to preview the London away trip, and hopefully we'll be on 2 points by the time that arrives. Maybe 4 points if the appeal is held over the next week or so. So thanks everybody for watching and joining in, and we'll see you next week.